Have you ever been walking somewhere, maybe out in nature or at an old site, and you've noticed them?
Right.
Pieces of cloth, maybe ribbons tied to tree branches.
Hmm.
It seems like such a simple thing, doesn't it? But it's actually incredibly
Oh.
widespread and ancient.
Oh, absolutely. It pops up all over the place.
Yeah, you find it everywhere. Like wish trees in Turkic cultures, those clootie trees in Scotland and Ireland,
Right, the Celtic tradition.
and the blue kadag scarves in Mongolia, similar things in the Middle East, Anatolia.
Buddhist prayer flags, of course.
Exactly. And Shinto traditions in Japan, even Slavic and Balkan customs. We're talking thousands of years across just so many different cultures.
It's truly remarkable, that universality.
So the big question is, what does this gesture really mean?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we often think of it as a prayer, maybe a wish.
That's the common understanding, definitely.
But what if the origins were, well, something even more fundamental, maybe something really surprising?
Now you're getting to it.
Today, in this deep dive, that's our mission. We're going to explore this really fascinating idea. It's called the Odam-Tilly theory.
Hmm.
And it proposes this kind of radical connection between that ancient ritual, the very first ways humans might have communicated, and maybe even some specific sounds we still make today.
It's quite a journey we're embarking on, really. Back to the potential roots of human expression itself. We're going to unpack this theory sort of step by step
Okay.
and show you how it tries to link, communication before words, the physical world, and even the sounds that became part of our language.
Right. So let's circle back then. This ritual, tying cloths to trees, it's everywhere. Today, or traditionally, what are the accepted symbolic meanings? Why do people do it?
Well, in almost every case you look at, the gesture is definitely symbolic, deeply so.
Okay.
People are often asking for something, protection, maybe fertility, healing, safe travels, that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
So it's a form of request or hope.
Exactly. And it's widely seen as creating this sort of visible link, doesn't it, between our world, the human world, and the sacred or the natural world. It marks a place, makes it
It
special.
sets it apart.
Sets it apart, yeah. And look, these interpretations are totally valid. They're well established. But this Odom-Tilly theory, it suggests there might be another layer, something deeper, maybe more primal underneath it all. Perhaps the original reason was forgotten over time.
Okay, this is where we need to stretch our imaginations a bit, I think. Can you really picture a time, like
Hmm.
tens of thousands of years ago, before we had spoken words like we do now? What would that first complex language have even looked like?
It is a challenge to really grasp, isn't it? But the core idea of the Odom-Tilly theory is this. Long, long before speech as we know it evolved,
Mm-hmm.
humans likely communicated mainly through gesture, movement. And crucially, the theory suggests that finger language, precise hand signs, might have been humanity's first truly complex language.
Finger language.
Hmm.
Like sign language, but maybe even earlier?
Potentially, yeah. Think about it. Our fingers are incredibly precise tools, right? Perfect for pointing things out, indicating objects, expressing feelings, giving instructions. It would have involved a whole combination of movement, position, sequence.
So incredibly precise, you're saying. Can you give us some examples? What might this early finger language have looked like, even beyond just pointing?
Absolutely. Think about simple things but powerful. A
Hmm.
single finger pointed could just mean this one, right? Two
Oh,
fingers held together. A curled finger might mean come closer or bring that here. Simple gestures, but they convey clear meaning.
right, I can see that.
And the theory emphasizes that this precision was absolutely critical. In this kind of early language, a tiny mistake, moving the wrong finger, maybe getting the position slightly off,
Hmm.
could completely change the meaning. So it would have required really rigorous learning, consistency. Everyone had to be on the same page, so to speak.
Makes sense if it's your primary communication.
Exactly. And there's actually some interesting scientific context here, too. Our brains have this amazing mirror neuron system.
Ah, yes, I've heard of those.
Right. They fire when we do an action, but also when we see someone else do it. And parts of that system seem specifically tuned to understanding hand movements. Plus, you still see it today, right? Infants learn to point. They use simple signs, often before they can speak.
That's true. My nephew was pointing long before words.
It strongly suggests that gestural language, in some form, probably came before complex spoken language. It feels quite natural.
Okay, so we've got this idea of a really early, precise finger language.
Yeah.
But what's the twist? How did the trees come back into it? That felt like where we started.
Right, back to the trees. This is where the theory proposes something really quite clever, I think, a really logical connection once you see it.
Okay.
The idea is that small branches on trees, they physically resemble fingers, don't they?
Huh. I suppose they do. Thin, flexible.
Exactly. Thin, flexible, they have those sort of joint-like divisions.
Yeah, okay, I see that.
So the theory suggests that tying a piece of cloth, or maybe hide back then, to one specific branch, it makes that branch stand out visually. It becomes a teaching aid.
A teaching aid. How?
Well, it helps the learner focus. Imagine teaching someone a complex sign. This finger moves, maybe, but this one stays perfectly still. Tying something to the active twig makes it instantly clear which one to focus on.
Ah, like highlighting it.
Precisely. Picture an early human, maybe a parent, teaching a child this crucial finger language. They pick a branch with lots of little twigs, they tie a strip of something hide, plant fiber, to just one twig, and the instruction is essentially move only this one.
Wow. Using the tree like a natural practice tool.
Exactly. A readily available natural teaching tool for training that precise finger motion. So the theory goes what likely started as a very practical technique for learning. Over time, it probably became a kind of mnemonic device, a memory aid, and then eventually it took on symbolic weight. It became a ritual.
That's fascinating. Okay, but then there's another leap, right? The sound she. How on earth could a sound be connected to teaching finger language with trees?
Yeah, this is perhaps the most unexpected part of the theory. It involves something called acoustic symbolism.
Acoustic symbolism.
It's the idea that certain sounds might inherently or naturally evoke certain meanings or sensations for us. It's not arbitrary.
Okay.
So, think about this. When you break a small, thin, dry twig, what sound does it make?
Like a snap, a crisp sound.
Yeah, a delicate, crisp, almost like a chikris sound, right? A quick, sharp shit.
You can hear that, yeah. A sheesh sound.
The theory suggests that this very specific natural sound led to this powerful, maybe unconscious association in our ancestors' minds, an association between the tree sound and things that are small, fine, delicate.
Like fingers or thin twigs.
Exactly, like fingers and thin twigs. So the sound itself started to carry the meaning of smallness or fineness.
Huh. Are there examples of that, like in language today?
Well, the theory argues this link might be quite fundamental, maybe across languages, but we can see echoes in English. Think about words starting with ish that often imply something small or fine, like a chip of wood, or chopping something into small pieces, a chink in armor.
A chick, a child.
Precisely. Even share, you could argue, implies a smaller individual support compared to, say, a bench. The theory is basically saying our ancestors connected the smallness of fingers and twigs, these crucial elements in early communication, with this specific sound.
Wow.
So each effectively became a kind of sonic marker, a sound representing small things, and by extension, the fine precise motion of those first tools of communication are fingers.
Okay, my mind is kind of blown here. This is weaving together gestures, trees, sounds. How does the Odam Tilly theory then tie this all back to that original ritual, the cloth on the branches we started with?
Right, let's bring it full circle. The theory suggests that even when spoken language eventually became dominant, replacing finger language as the primary mode, that deep ancestral memory of learning communication through precise finger movements, perhaps using trees as aids, it didn't just vanish. It lingered. It survived in these rituals.
So the ritual became a kind of memory keeper.
Sort of, yeah. Hanging cloth on branches evolved into this deeply ingrained way to, perhaps unconsciously at first, honor that ancestral learning process. It came to symbolize clarity, connection, maybe that focused intention you needed for finger language.
And the visual link, the branch like a finger.
That too. It served as a visual reminder, maybe that finger of the tree, reaching up, embodying that idea of a precise, deliberate message or gesture towards the heavens or the spirit world.
So even when people forgot the original why, the teaching part.
Exactly. Even when the practical purpose faded deep into the past, the gesture itself remained potent. It kept its sacred feeling. It became what we see now, a prayer, right? Signaling a clear message, a wish, showing focused intention, and maybe just a powerful reminder of that really delicate ancient connection between us, language, and the natural world that helped us learn it.
It's almost like, well, you mentioned infants pointing before speaking. It's like the ritual is a cultural echo of that developmental stage.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. A kind of cultural continuity, echoing those very first steps.
Okay. So if we were to sum up the core claims of this Odam-Tilly theory, what would be the absolute key takeaways?
Right, let's boil it down. The theory essentially proposes this unified picture. First, the cheat sound, through acoustic symbolism, fundamentally connects to the idea of something small, fine, finger-like.
Okay. Smallness teach.
Second, the act of tying cloth to branches wasn't originally just symbolic. It started as a practical educational technique, a
Right.
way to isolate and teach precise finger movements for clarity in that early finger language.
The tree is a teaching tool. Got it.
And third, over vast stretches of time, this practical act transformed. It morphed into a deeply embedded ritual symbol representing learning, clarity, communication, and our connection to the natural world.
Learning, clarity, communication.
hmm And the theory makes an even broader statement, really. It suggests that fundamentally, all letters, sounds, and rituals arise from the deep well of human perception and the need to communicate experience through the body. It all comes back to our physical experience of the world.
Wow. That's quite profound. To think that just a simple piece of cloth tied to a tree branch, it might actually be what you could call a cultural fossil,
That's a perfect term for it.
preserving this incredibly deep memory
Yeah.
of our first gestures, the sheer precision needed for finger language, and even a link between a tiny twig and a sound like LG that we still use constantly.
It really does reinforce the idea, doesn't it, that sometimes the most ordinary, everyday things we see around us, these simple traditions, they can hold incredibly deep cultural memories, echoes of our ancestors' very first steps toward language as we know it.
Makes you think, doesn't it? So maybe next time you see a ribbon tied to a tree, or heck, maybe even just when you hear that she a sound in a word, what forgotten layers of human communication, of learning, might you actually be encountering?
What whispers from the past.
Exactly. And what other seemingly simple traditions out there might hold these incredibly complex hidden origins, just waiting for us to, well, to do a deep dive and try to understand them. Definitely something to keep exploring.